Hi, everyone. My name is Erwin, and we are here to talk about AI notebooks and how to. In this session, I'm joined by my colleague, Brad Myro.
Hey everyone, happy to be here.
So, in this session, we'll give you an overview of Vertex AI Workbench, and we'll do two demos on how to use Vertex AI Workbench and Spark, and how to use Vertex AI Workbench with Bigquery and the wider Vertex platform. We don't have a lot of time, so let's dive into it right away. So we believe that a notebook-based workflow are the key to production-grade data science because it offers minimal overhead and waste. It's important as a user, but also as an ITer to provision resources and to apply organizational controls. Also, it's key to have a seamless handoff between your IT systems, of course, your data systems, but also your workflow systems. Often we see that it's not in place. And also, as a user, we like to have a unified development experience, accessing our data, engineer our features, build our models, and bring all of this into production. To cater to these needs, we recently launched and introduced the Vertex AI Workbench, which is a next generation notebook. It's a single interface for your data, analytics, and machine learning workloads. So it's a Jupyter supported workbench environment where we have an enterprise notebook ready for you to use, and we offer connectivity and integrations with our data analytics capabilities. But also we offer integrations with the wider Vertex AI platform. Also, together with our NVIDIA partner, we made it possible to launch a Vertex Workbench notebook from a single click from the NVIDIA NGC Center. So NVIDIA NGC has a wide range of NVIDIA GPU optimized AI software and libraries for you to use. Let's dive a bit deeper into what is the Vertex AI Workbench or what do we offer. We offer managed notebooks and we have a multi-kernel UI support. There's a managed pool of resources for you to use to go from instant provisioning and switch between resources. And also there's the option that if you don't use your notebook for a while, it will go in idle shutdown. And it's there again for you to use when you go back to work. And of course, we have integration with our core data analytics capabilities like BigQuery, or if you want to leverage Spark, as Brad is going to show you later as well. And then once you work with that data, you processed it, you can do training using custom Vertex training, AutoML, or BigQuery machine learning. And then once you have that machine learning model ready, you can create a pipeline, you can deploy on Vertex pipelines, and then take that model into production. So as mentioned, integration with the Vertex platform is a core capability of Vertex AI Workbench. So we're going to see some of those integrations later on as well. But the Vertex AI platform is the go-to platform for data scientists to build their end-to-end machine learning use case. So depending on your requirements, depending on your use case, there's technology for you to use on the Vertex AI platform. What we're going to see later on is the Vertex AI managed pipelines, and we're also going to see Vertex AI predictions, and of course, Vertex AI Workbench. So let's dive into one of these demos right away. I'll hand it over to Brad. Brad, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Erwin. So earlier you heard about several exciting announcements, including serverless Spark through BigQuery, Dataproc on GKE for Spark, and what we're now going to spend more time on, which is serverless Spark Interactive and its Vertex AI Workbench integration. Now, before we dive into our demo, I just want to talk a bit about Dataproc as well. Through Dataproc, you can consume Spark and a myriad of other open source tools however you see fit. Some of these include Jupyter, Pig, Tez, Zeppelin, Scala, Presto, Dask, and NVIDIA's Rapids framework. Dataproc also enables access to our larger suite of tools on Google Cloud, including BigQuery, Cloud Storage, Spanner, Dataflow, PubSub, Kubernetes, and, of course, Vertex AI and Vertex AI Workbench. Now, to talk a bit more about the serverless Spark integration through Vertex AI, data scientists can use Spark for development from Vertex AI Workbench, as well as Vertex AI seamlessly. You have the built-in security and authentication features that Vertex AI provides. You have Google Cloud security and user access that are applied to your Vertex AI Spark jobs. And you can also integrate Spark into ML ops workflows. You can execute Spark code through Vertex AI and Vertex AI Workbench, as well as through Vertex AI pipelines and Kubeflow pipelines. So with that, let's dive into a demo. So here we are inside of the Dataproc Cloud console, and this is where all of our Dataproc clusters will be listed. If I wanted to create a new one to be used with Vertex AI Workbench, I would press Create Cluster. I can then provide a cluster name, something like my cluster. And then there's some other configurations here we can set, such as the region. But importantly, to work with Vertex AI Workbench, we'll need to enable Component Gateway, which provides access to the web interfaces on the cluster without needing to create an SSH tunnel. And then also we would need to enable the Jupyter Notebook optional component. So then we could go ahead and press Create, but we actually have a cluster already here that I provisioned earlier that we'll use for the demo. Now, if we want to take a look now at our workbench, we could go to Vertex AI and then Workbench. And here we'll see all of our notebooks that are available. And if we wanted to create a new one, you can press New Notebook. And then similarly, we have some other configuration options here. So we have, we can change the name. So for instance, it could be like my instance, let's say. You can also configure the region. Then there's also some advanced settings here that you can set. So you can use a custom image for the Workbench instance. You can also configure the machine type. You can enable idle shutdown. And then you can also enable things such as networking and some security options, such as having access to a terminal on the instance. So once again, we already have a workbench available that I created earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it. So here we are inside of our Vertex AI Workbench instance. And before we dive into this launcher tab, let's actually take a look at some of the tabs that we have available to us on this left-hand sidebar here. So the first one is our file browser, and this one will list all of the files that we have available to us in our instance. Next up is this Google Cloud Storage tab, and this will show us all of the storage buckets that we have available and that we could also browse through. Here we have our Bigquery tab, and this will list the Bigquery resources available, and so we can browse through some of these. For instance, I can click on this Bigquery public data, and this will show us all of the data sets that we have available. Next, we have this running kernels and terminals tab, and so here this will show us just the the ones that we have that are currently running. Next, we have this tab to show a Git repository that we can connect to Vertex AI Workbench. Here we have a table of contents tab, and let's say we had a notebook that was that had Markdown written in it. It would actually be shown here, and we can click on one of the headers, and then it would bring us to that section of the notebook. Here we have the notebook executor tab, and so what we can actually do is we can schedule executions of our of any of our notebooks, either scheduled or ad hoc, I should say, and so those would be listed here. And then last but not least, we have this tab for enabling third-party extensions within JupyterLab. So now let's talk about what we have available to us in the launcher here. So we have a couple high-level components. We have notebooks, consoles, and other. And then under other, you see that we can enable some things such as a terminal or create a text file. But let's take a look at some of these notebook options. So every instance of Vertex AI Workbench by default will come configured with a Python kernel, a PyTorch kernel, R, TensorFlow, and XGBoost. And then as we just announced, you now have access to Serverless Spark. So what we can do is we can click on this, and then we can create a serverless Spark session by providing a name, choosing the language, the region, some network configurations, and then we also have the option to configure things such as a custom container image or a Metastore service or a history server. So I've actually gone ahead and created one of these in advance. We have here this PySpark on the Summit session, and so this would connect us to our session. So here we have some code that will pull data out of one of the Bigquery public data sets, namely the New York City Bike public data set. And then using the Spark Bigquery connector, it will actually load some data and do some basic exploratory data analysis on it. Now here we have, we can see that this is connected to that Summit session that we were talking about earlier, but I can also change this to any other kernel that I have available on in my environment. So we have those local kernels, but then we also have any one of those kernels on one of our Dataproc clusters. So we'll just stay on the serverless session here, and then we can see that we can actually go ahead and execute some code. Now, a couple other things that I want to talk about here include this execute button. So if we click on this, this pulls up a window where it allows us to submit notebooks to the executor feature. And so we can set a name, we can choose the machine type that we want to have configured here, the accelerator, and then also the execution. So this can be one time or scheduled. And then we would end up pressing submit. And then last but not least, let's actually create an extra cell here. And I want to talk about this feature here, which is a button that enables Bigquery. And by pressing this, we now have the ability to actually execute SQL commands against Bigquery. All right, so that's what I have to show to you today. And now I'm going to toss it back to Erwin. Erwin, back to you.
Thank you, Brett, for that awesome demo. Now let's go into the next demo and have a look at Bigquery and Vertex AI Workbench. From Vertex AI Workbench, you have direct access to query data that sets into Bigquery. You can use the interface for this, or you can use the code to submit your queries to Bigquery and even create a pandas data frame. Why this is important is this offers you the ability to leverage data that sits in Bigquery, but to also have access to our Bigquery public data sets, but also feed this data into the different steps of your machine learning workflow, which helps with reducing your data movement. So let's dive into the demo and have a look on how some of these capabilities from Vertex AI Workbench and the integration with Bigquery works. Okay, we're back at the Google Cloud Console for the second demo. We've just seen an awesome demo by Brett, and we're going to start our demo in a similar way using a managed notebook that's part of the Vertex Workbench. As you can see, I've already created a workbench environment, a managed notebook environment. And we're going to go through a demo where we're going to create a Bigquery machine learning model, and then we're going to automatically deploy that model onto our Vertex model registry. So this is a very new functionality. So you can train in Bigquery, and then we can deploy the trained model on the Vertex platform. And once it's registered on the platform, we can deploy it as a REST API and get predictions from it. So that's what we're going to see in this demo, and I would suggest we dive into it right away. So let's go to our notebook environment. So this is a managed Jupyter Lab environment, and I want to point out one of the functionalities that we mentioned during the presentation is that from here you can explore data sets that are available within Bigquery. So the ones that you see here are the public data sets. And for our use case, we're going to use the penguins data set where we're going to predict the type of species based on some of the input features. Here I can also query data that's available in Bigquery, and I can see the results in my notebook environment. Okay, so let's move to our notebook. So as mentioned, we're going to create and train a logistic regression in this case that's going to predict the type of species of a penguin. So here you can see that we're specifying the type of models and our label scope. And then once the model is trained, we want to register that model on the Vertex model registry. So after training, it will be automatically deployed on the registry environment. And from there, we can take it and deploy it as a REST API. And we're going to train this on a public dataset. I could run this query from this cell using the magic cell capabilities for Bigquery, but I'm gonna go to the Bigquery interface because I think it's more fun to see. So this is the same query for us to create a model and to register it on the model registry. So we can run this query and then the training process will start. Of course, training a machine learning model takes a bit of time. So I already prepared a trained model for us. So here's the logistic regression. We can see the training options or the hyperparameter specifications for this model. We can see how it performed during training. And we can also evaluate the performance of our model. So these are the aggregated metrics. And if I scroll down, we have our confusion metric here. So as mentioned, this model has been automatically registered on the model registry. So let's move to the Vertex Platform interface. So if we go to Vertex models, and this is where we can find the model that we just trained using Bigquery machine learning. So this is the penguins model. I'm going to select this one. And then if we see here, we can go to model properties and we can see that the source is a Bigquery machine learning model. So we are pretty happy with this model. So it's time for us to deploy this model and start using it in production. So I'm going to select deploy endpoint so I can do the deployment from the interface. I'm going to add it to an existing endpoint because we already have a use case in production and I want to add this model to it. So I'm going to select that endpoint name. I'm going to say continue. And now I have to specify a traffic split. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to specify a 90. Yes. 10. And this one I'm going to set to 0. And I'm going to set this one to 10. So this is the new one. We're going to slowly build up the traffic for the new model. I'm going to leave the minimum number of compute nodes to 1. And I'm going to also leverage the advanced scaling options, and I'm going to specify the compute here. For this use case, I'm not going to use a GPU accelerator. And now I'm happy and I'm done. I'm going to say, OK. Check. OK, we have 3 models that are part of the endpoint. This is the existing one, and this is the one that we're going to activate with 10% of traffic going there. Deploy. So what you will see now is that the deployment is starting. And if we move to our endpoints and we go to the penguins endpoint, we can see the existing models are already here. So the new deployment is going to start, and it will also change the traffic split. And so these are all the models that are associated with the endpoint. So we've gone for the model registry, and now we started our deployment. So of course, this takes a bit of time as well. And I also want to show you how you can test the endpoint. So how you can send some data to it and actually do a sample request. So here, if you select one of the models, this is the existing one. You see here on the right, you see sample requests. And here you see an explanation on how you can do a sample request. This is also something you can do from your notebook environment. So if you use the library, so the SDK for interacting with Vertex, you can specify an endpoint. So this is the endpoint ID So that's the idea associated with that, with endpoint. We then, of course, need some data that we're going to send to the endpoint, and then we can make a prediction. So we're going to send the JSON to the endpoint, and we will, in return, we'll get the results or the prediction of the model. So in this case, a class for the type of penguin species. So what we've seen is training a model using Bigquery machine learning, automatically deploying that model on the Vertex model registry, and then taking that model and deploying it as a REST API using the Vertex UI. And then we've seen how we can make a prediction to test that model. So that was it for the last demo. I want to do a big shout out and thank you to Brett for the awesome demo on Spark and Vertex AI. I hope you enjoyed this session and enjoy the rest of the Cloud Data Summit.